And we're live. Welcome, everyone, to
Yes.
End Time Talks. How you doing, Gary?
Great. How are you?
I'm good.
Good,
It's
good.
Thursday night, and we're here again,
Wow.
back at it. It's 6 p.m.
Couple days left before the big day.
Yeah. It's just 2 days away from Christmas Eve, 3 days from Christmas Day. It is the 5th day of Hanukkah.
Yeah.
So that started on Sunday. So it's just a great week all around. I'm sure there are a lot of families who are gearing up and getting really excited,
Yep.
to start the holiday season. And some of our Jewish brothers and sisters are already full in the midst of the swing of all that Hanukkah brings for them. And it's really exciting time of year.
Sure is.
Yeah, and we've been monitoring the weather all week. We have some exciting things happening here at the Eastern Gate. We've been monitoring the weather all week for today and for tomorrow to determine whether or not we'll be able to do our Christmas caroling.
It's looking good
in the neighborhood. It's looking good. It's definitely looking
for
good
tomorrow.
But we'll continue monitoring that. Make sure you have the app. The app allows you to stay really on top of what's going on.
Well, let's
here.
talk. What are we doing tomorrow?
Let's talk about it. Yeah,
might be
right.
people that don't know what we're talking
You're
about.
right. You got to download the app if you want to know.
So tomorrow, the 23rd.
Tomorrow's the 23rd. We are going to be walking through the streets of our immediate neighborhood here around
Well, it's
the
our
Eastern
usual
Gate.
encounter night.
That's
right?
correct.
So
That's
every
correct.
Friday night, and this is something you might want to know for the future.
Yeah.
Every Friday night, we meet here at the House of Prayer. It's a regional meeting at 7 p.m. And we gear the messaging towards revival coming to the region, and then we have worship in response to the Lord in a time of worship. So that's every Friday night.
That's every Friday night.
7 p.m.
And it starts at 7 p.m.
Yeah.
You're right. But this Friday is going to be a little bit different. We're doing a special outreach encounter service, if you will. And it's going to be an exciting time. We're inviting everyone to come and join us, and you are welcome as well, to form part of a mass choir that will be walking in procession throughout the neighborhood here at Eastern Gate. And we're so excited about that. We're going to be meeting at 6 p.m. right in the prayer room, and we're going to have a mini rehearsal. We're going to go over the songs that have been selected, and the songs are not your traditional Christmas songs.
Well, they are traditional.
They're traditional, but
secular.
not secular. Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's not like Rudolph and Frosty songs, but more so the messianic ones, the ones that really exalt Christ, put him back in the center of this Christmas holiday. And we're going to do a quick rehearsal, and by 6:30 we should be heading out to the streets, and we're going to walk around the neighborhood.
It should be like a parade.
Yeah, it's to be like a parade
We're
of
just
all of
going to
us
sing the 5-6 songs over.
Yeah, just singing in harmony to the Lord, just a cappella. It's going to be amazing. We have some musicians who may be playing some guitars and stuff like that, but it's just going to be an amazing expression of our devotion to Jesus on the streets, which is what I'm really most excited about. And it's going to be such a sight, I think, to be able to walk around this time in our neighborhoods and let them know, that Jesus is the reason, and it's an opportunity for us to introduce ourselves as well to the neighborhood that may not know us. We blanketed the neighborhood last week with the staff and letting them know that we're coming through.
They pass by the sign. They go IHOP. They do the joke, pancakes, but to know that it's a regional voice that is a place, a refuge, really, of prayer, but also of salvation and deliverance, that they can come there and receive prayer personally for themselves. So that's what we want to get out, that message.
Absolutely. Yeah, I always like to call it like a prayer hub, just that place that the region can just kind of come to and gravitate to, either to receive prayer or to just connect with the Lord in prayer and get away from all the distractions at home. It's just an amazing, it's going to be an amazing opportunity for us to get that messaging out. And we're really excited about that. And we're going to parade around the neighborhood, just kind of singing at any door that opens any home that opens their door. We're going to engage them with gifts for the family, for the household, and we're going to pray and bless them right there on their doorstep and bless their family as well. And if the Lord gives us the opportunity, we'll even share the gospel. But we're hoping to make these connections that will be just our first contact with them. And then we're going to invite them all to come out and join us in the procession and continue to walk around their neighborhood. And then we're going to, at the end, at 8 p.m., we're going to all come back to the Eastern Gate Missions Base, and there's going to be hot cocoa and desserts and refreshments for all. It's going to be an amazing time. It's just a great way to celebrate the pre-holiday activities that are coming
And
up.
if this works, it might become a regular yearly tradition.
Hopefully it'll be a tradition.
that you can bring your family to, and the kids will always remember. I used to do that as a kid.
Really?
My dad, my dad used to, he played accordion.
That's right.
And we would, it was a family thing. Like the church used to do something to the shut-in ministry. But we used to do it as a family, which was, 20 people. And we get into different cars, aunts, uncles, cousins, and we go to different ones of our family that were kind of shut in and older.
That's so nice.
And we would sing, on the front lawn. And we have such great memories, my brothers and sister and cousins, of being little kids and singing on the front lawns. And so it's a nice tradition. So hopefully we can maintain that tradition for the region.
Absolutely. It'll be my first time. I've only seen that in the movies, Gary. So
okay.
I'm super excited about being a part of it. So yeah, it's going to be an amazing experience. You don't want to miss it. Bring your children. Like you said, what a great opportunity to start a new tradition for your family. And what a better way to do it than this weekend, joining us tomorrow right here at 6 p.m.
6 p.m.
Weather permitting. So check your app. It'll let you know the latest, and our social media platforms will keep everyone advised. But we're really excited. Listen, it's 6:30. I'm sorry, 6 o'clock. It's end time talks, and you have a seat at the table. Pull up a chair. Let everyone know, if you haven't done so already, hit the like button and the share button, and let everybody know that we are live today. And I'm so excited to talk about our conversation today. In light of the fact that we are on the heels of Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, and we're in the midst of the Hanukkah season, Gary, I thought what better topic for us to address than the one that's at hand, which is this holiday season, which is often a controversial topic for the church itself in terms of how to recognize it, how do we celebrate it, what's pagan, what's not. It's become really a divisive conversation, but I don't necessarily want to talk about that part of it.
Yeah.
What I would like for us to talk about, though, is more on the Hanukkah side of things, on our Jewish side of our family, if you will.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Hanukkah and how Hanukkah. I don't know a lot of details about it. And I know you know more than I do, but let's talk about what Hanukkah is. What is it that our Jewish brothers and sisters are actually celebrating, and how does it point to some really important and interesting milestones in the life and ministry of Jesus? And why is that important for us as Christians to know about Hanukkah?
Yeah. Well. You do have to kind of go through the history, and but what we really should be looking at when we think of Hanukkah and the history of Hanukkah is that it's one of the clearest pictures of the end times. Now, this is something no one thinks about.
Okay.
Hanukkah is actually a clear picture of the near far prophecy of the rise of the Antichrist and the battle of the persecution. And but to get context, we have to understand that Jesus participated in Hanukkah. And we find that in John chapter 10. So John chapter 10 is a famous scripture that signifies Jesus as the Good Shepherd. Okay. So whenever you think of Jesus as Good Shepherd, you go to John 10, right? And it talks about I am the door, and anyone that enters me, shall be saved, and so forth. And then it goes into the sheep hear my voice, right? And I know them, and they follow me, right? We use that scripture a lot. That scripture is right in the middle of him celebrating Hanukkah.
Oh, wow.
It's right in that context.
That's great.
So it starts in verse 22. It says, now it was the Feast of Dedication in Jerusalem. Now, Hanukkah is the Hebrew word for dedication.
Oh,
okay, so that's where we're landing.
Okay, all
right, so it's the Feast of Hanukkah, it would read if it was Hebrew in the New Testament. Now, it was the Feast of Hanukkah, or the Feast of Dedication in Jerusalem, and it was winter. So now we know that it's not just some strange feast of dedication. It's the one that happens in the wintertime, which is Hanukkah that we celebrate today.
How interesting.
And Jesus walked in the temple in Solomon's porch, which, remember, Solomon's porch was the place where everyone would gather to debate, to talk, to fellowship, before the Holy of Holies, or the holy place. And the Jews surrounded him and said, "How long do you keep us in doubt? If you are the Christ, tell us plainly." So, poor Jesus, he's there to celebrate the Feast of Dedication, and they're just berating him with the debates that would go on. And Jesus answers that I told you, and you do not believe. The works I do in my Father's name, they bear witness of me, which is, the works I'm doing is what the prophets spoke about. So he's pointing back into history like the Feast of Dedication does. Verse 26, you do not believe me because you're not of my sheep, as I said to you. My sheep hear my voice, and I know them, and they follow me. And I give them eternal life, and they shall never perish, neither shall anyone snatch them out of my hand. My Father who has given them to me is greater than all, and no one is able to snatch them out of my Father's hand. I and my Father are one. And then the Jews took up stones to stone him. Right? This is all in the context of the Feast of Dedication of Hanukkah.
Wow.
All right. So what is Hanukkah? You know, what's going on? Well, it's interesting. I should make reference to this, that so they get up and they're going to stone him, and they continue the argument. Again, this is in Solomon's porch. And then the next chapter is the resurrection of Lazarus. All right, so you can almost you could see the timing that was set up in the book of John to go, you know, the Feast of Dedication, the renewal of the temple, the opposition to that, and the resurrection is kind of giving us a little bit of a picture of the end time scenario. All right, so let's go to what's actually Hanukkah. What is this prophetic picture of the end times? So my dates won't be exact because I'm doing it all from memory, but somewhere around 300, 320, 330 BC, we have the rise of Alexander the Great. So everyone kind of knows the name, right? But they don't really know what his position is, where he kind of lands in it. But it's around 332 BC. Alexander the Great comes out of the Persian Greek wars, and he conquers everything, right? So, and part of that everything is conquering Jerusalem. But in his conquering Jerusalem, he doesn't destroy it like every other conqueror does before. Instead, he comes in with a lot of peace, and he wants to continue the function of Judaism in Jerusalem, even though he's conquered them. And actually, Jews love Alexander the Great. They name buildings after him. I mean, he gets a lot of love from this conqueror because they were expecting to be routed and into Babylon or exile, and instead he's going, no, stay and do what you do, and keep your language, and we're gonna just work with you in all of this. But what happens is some years later, Alexander dies suddenly. Like, he's a young man, and he dies, and then his generals rise up, and now he's got 4 or 5 different generals that begin to fight for who's the new leader. And it ends up there's like 2 strong ones that rise up, which are the Seleucid Empire. You might have heard that name, which is the Syrian region, and then the Ptolemaic Empire, which is Egypt, which is Israel's in the middle, right? So they're the ones that kind of are now fighting, and they swap rulership over the next 75, 100 years. This battle goes on until Antiochus III rises up. He's from the Seleucid dynasty, and he beats down the Ptolemaic dynasty and wins. Right? So now we have Antiochus III. And he reconquers Jerusalem in this routing of Egypt. And he takes more of the Alexander the Great position. So he's going, we're going to work with you. But we in this working with you, there begins what we have heard as the Hellenistic period. So the Jews become Hellenized. What does that mean? They begin to take on Greek culture. First, they take on the language. So that's where we get the Greek New Testament, right? And but in their day, that's where we get the Septuagint, right? So they translate the Old Testament in our language into Greek. All right, so now we got the Septuagint, and Greek language becomes the administrative language. It becomes the legal language and the formal language of Jerusalem. And then they begin to build different Greek cultural centers, like gymnasiums. So gymnasiums in Greek culture was kind of the place you would fellowship, but it was very what's the word? Hellenistic. It was very secular. For instance, gymnasiums where the men would gather, they would be naked in their games, and that was an affront to Jewish culture,
Sure,
right? And but it became acceptable. And it became acceptable so much that the Jews were leaving Solomon's porch and they were doing their debates in the gymnasiums.
Wow.
All right. So the Jews then began to go, well, we want you back into Solomon's porch. So they started to allow for Hellenism to exist on the Temple Mount.
Look at that.
So now the Greek culture were bringing their idols and so forth in Solomon's porch, and it was acceptable. So there was this acceptance and this the cross-cultural of the secular and the religious for the sake of maintaining
really like
identity,
assimilating
tolerance.
Wow.
Hopefully, you're starting to see the picture, right?
Absolutely,
Why
yeah.
this is an end-time picture,
Right. Wow.
right? So Antiochus III, he dies, and there's a sudden replacement, or he either he gets old, I don't remember now, and calls for his replacement, or he dies. And his son takes over, Antiochus IV. Now, Antiochus IV is not as tolerant as his father, and he actually takes over power, and he puts out a decree. Now, this decree is in the first book of Maccabees. All right, so this is where we get this information from, and I wanted to copy it so I can read it to you, so you understand, again, the end time message in the future compared to Hanukkah. So it says in the first book of Maccabees, the king sent letters by messenger, this is Antiochus IV, to Jerusalem and the towns of Judah, containing orders to follow customs foreign to the land, to put a stop to burnt offerings and meal offering and libations in the temple, to violate Sabbaths and festivals, to defile temple and holy things, to build illicit altars and illicit temples and idolatrous shrines. This is a law. Wow. To sacrifice swine and ritually unfit animals, to leave their sons uncircumcised, and to draw abomination upon themselves by means of all kinds of uncleanness and profanation, so as to forget the Torah and violate all the commandments. Whoever disobeyed the word of the king was to be put to death.
Wow.
All right, so this is Antiochus IV. He puts this message out to the Jews in Judah and Israel. Wow. And says, this is what has to happen. You have to violate the Sabbath. You have to forget circumcision. You can't do that any longer. Okay.
So it's more than just walk away from the faith. It's you're going to abominate the faith. You're going to desecrate the
purposefully.
Oh my goodness.
By law, under threat of death.
Wow.
All right. So Antiochus gets this idea, and he's like, I'm going to send a garrison of soldiers, and they're going to come into households, into the little towns around Galilee and Judah. And this is the mark that they're going to give them to make sure they're going to violate the Torah. They came with a carriage full of pigs, and they would make, under threat of death, the families sacrifice the pigs to Zeus and then eat the meat. And this was the mark of the beast called the pig.
Wow.
It was a blasphemy that they caused them to make, because they were saying, if you make this blasphemy, then we know you violated the Torah. Right? And then we can trust that if you violate in this way, which is the greatest way you can violate the Torah, then we know that you've now marked yourself as a blasphemer.
So that mark essentially became an expression or an outward demonstration of allegiance.
Yes.
It's like your heart is with us.
You're with us because you've blasphemed the Torah to this degree.
Oh my! I'm getting goosebumps. That's
okay.
And I know I'm making all these
You're
connections.
making the connections now. All right. So families, because of the Hellenistic Jews, were fine with it, because they've already violated the Torah because they've been secularized by Greek culture. So it wasn't that far to go another step, right? But then there was the Orthodox Jews who were going, we've rejected all of this anyway, and now you're going to come and make us, no, we're not going to do it. So they began to kill them on the spot. And that's where we get to the family that rose up as the Maccabees that began to gather an army that were now going to go against this because they would not take the mark of the pig.
I can't believe I've never heard this story before. This is amazing.
They wouldn't take the mark of the beast.
Incredible.
So that's where they begin to go, we're not going to do this. And they go into the hillsides and they gather this army.
Wow. And
thus we begin this battle, this warfare that went on for some time, but in the meantime, Antiochus IV takes over the temple. He sacrifices a pig in the temple. He builds an altar to Zeus, becomes the abomination that causes desolation upon the Temple Mount. All right, so now the temple's been desolated by this world leader, and he takes on the name Antiochus Epiphanes. Epiphany means a manifestation of God. Yeah. So we can almost draw the connection between 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, where this person, remember now, this is Paul already past history, so he's looking at history and going in the future, there'll be one who will do the same thing as Antiochus Epiphanes did. He will take over the temple, he will desecrate the temple and set himself up as an epiphany, as a manifestation of God himself in the temple. All right, so he's totally drawing language from history in the Feast of Dedication. Wow. Okay, so what happens? So there's this fight that goes on for many years until finally of the Maccabee of the family, Mattathias, I think is the family, the son rises up who finally conquers the army, the Antiochus, the Greeks. What's his name? His name is Judah. So Judah rises up with a small army, and they conquer the Temple Mount, and they take the temple back from the Antiochus Greco-Roman army. And part of this symbol of taking over is first undefiling the temple, right? So getting rid of everything that defiled it and cleaning up everything, right? Wow. But it's not able to be rededicated until the menorah is lit. The problem is they only have enough oil for one day, okay? So they had a choice. They could have said, all right, we're not going to dedicate the temple until we get more oil. But then they have to wait, right? And they're going, no, let's light the menorah because we need to know that this temple is dedicated back to God. And in the meantime, we'll get the holy oil made. All right, but it was going to take 7 or 8 days to make the holy oil. Wow. So they light the menorah, and the menorah stays lit on 1 day's vial of oil until they can make enough oil so that it never goes out.
That's amazing.
All right, so that's now we land on Hanukkah.
Right.
That's what's being celebrated. That little piece is what they're celebrating. The little piece is, and they don't even really understand what that means. We got the temple back from the Maccabees, and the menorah had to stay lit. And it was just 1 day of oil, but it had to stay lit. They don't understand really what's going on.
Right, the bigger picture.
The bigger picture is that the statement is made and that God prolongs the small amount of oil until the rest of the oil comes in. And once the menorah is lit, then it's lit forever. Wow. Okay, so which is a picture of the 1,000-year millennial kingdom into eternity.
Wow.
So that oil stays lit for that signifies 1,000 years, and then God comes and it goes into eternity. Right. So that's the picture of Hanukkah. Hanukkah is one of the clearest pictures of the end times, and it's not looked at all.
At all.
You don't ever hear about
At
it.
least not within the bigger framework of the context historically of what was happening leading up to the Hanukkah moment.
Yeah.
I guess in my mind, you understood that Israel was always had battles over the territory of the land and the temple, and you obviously know that, Antiochus Epiphanes is coming up against, the Jews. And, I guess the story as I understood is they were locked up in the temple, last stand, and the oil lasted 8 days. And all of that is romanticized and it's beautiful. It's like, wow, the Lord's faithfulness until the rest of the oil can be made. But you don't connect it to the whole bigger picture. You miss out on so much.
Yeah.
And now it even makes me think, the Apostle Paul and others like John, who get this revelation of the end times, they're getting it in the context of being Jews who know their history. And this is history repeating itself. This is like a double fulfilling prophecy.
They're going back to the prophets and history. So they go to the prophets, they go to history, and they go, this is the way it's going to be. Because the prophets were speaking of a day, but a near, but it doesn't affect the whole earth. Right. So this whole thing was a picture that was just in this small little microcosm, that in in Paul and in John, they're going, this is going to happen on a large scale. This little picture happens to the whole earth.
Wow.
Right? So that's why you can go, you can't say, well, it happened already. Because no, it's too small.
No.
The prophecies are this is going to happen on a widespread global expression. And so then you can actually track the Maccabee experience with what we're seeing today, the compromise, the Hellenistic views that will happen in the church, which is a picture of Israel, because the church is part of Israel, the Commonwealth of Israel. And we see that happening today. History is repeating itself.
That's extraordinary.
Yeah.
That is so good.
Yeah.
And even that part, I guess I'm assuming the language you emphasize being the mark of the beast, which is that in that case was the pig. We're hearing this language is so familiar. It's coming back to us in the book of Revelation. The connections must be happening for the Jewish audience who's reading John's, writings or reading.
It has to be familiar to them. Yeah,
we've heard this before. Yeah. Where have I heard this before? And it also speaks to, if you will, almost a mercy of the Lord to allow them to have these rehearsals in history to point to his faithfulness, how it'll be in the end times.
Right.
I'm going to give you enough anointing, enough grace to endure right before the millennial age where it comes in abundance. Oh my gosh.
Think about it. You got Alexander the Great, who they embrace.
Yeah.
Right? Antiochus III, they embrace. They're going, he's helping us. This is good. Like the Antichrist will be, they'll embrace him. He's helping us. Now, remember,
covenant.
And this wasn't a Jew. It was an outsider that was coming in, but they're going, he's helping us, this must be good. And then on a dime, it changes. Antiochus IV takes over, and he's totally the opposite.
Yeah.
In the moment, right there, on a dime, he changes it all, which is the story. And that's why, when I teach about 666, the mark of the beast, I kind of go, guys, it's not what you think. It isn't just, oops, I took it by accident, or it's hidden in a vaccination. No. It is going to be an effort of blasphemy. Because later in the book of Revelation, remember, the angel preaches from the sky, and he's preaching down to the earth. He's going, do not take the mark of the beast. If you take the mark of the beast, all is lost. Yeah. It's the unpardonable sin, right? So what is the unpardonable sin? Blasphemy against the Holy Spirit, right? So look back in history. Where did this happen before? Right then, if you sacrifice a pig on God's altar to another god and then eat of that, it's a blasphemy, right? So the mark of the beast, when you're trying to figure out what could it be, it's this, it's that guy, it's that number, it's a blasphemy. That we know, because you cannot be forgiven when you take it, and you're taking it knowingly. Right. So those Jews that took it under threat of death, the compromised ones, they're going, well, we're going to have to do this or they're going to kill us, right? So they've already been compromised to know, God, we know we're taking a blasphemy, but, is he really going to is that really a bad thing to do? Right? They're already compromised. When the Orthodox Jews are going, we will not blaspheme God because we cannot recover. If you kill us in this blasphemy, then we are lost forever. So death is greater than blasphemy. We're not going to blaspheme the Lord. So that's the picture in Revelation. Don't take the mark of the beast, even if they kill you. And you'll know what it is because you'll understand that it's a direct blasphemy against God.
Which is why that those who overcome, did so, by the power of the blood of the Lamb, the word of their testimony, but they did not love their lives even unto death. It's the issue of the heart, really, right? Who does your heart belong to? And I think that so often the conversation gets sidetracked with what does it look like? What is the mechanism, the technology? What is the vehicle of the mark? It's not about that. No. The devil is not trying to get, or the Antichrist will not try to get his technology on you or his mark on you or his emblem on you. He's after your heart.
Right.
He wants the mark is condemnable not because of the marking of itself, but what you did to get that mark.
Yeah.
What you were willing to forfeit and deny and denounce is really it's what's happening in your heart that led to you getting that mark.
Well said. Yeah, exactly.
And that's incredible. And I think if anything, that history moment really speaks to how specific was that. I mean, defile everything that makes you Jewish.
Yeah,
everything that
right?
the Lord has told you to do, defile that.
And
everything. Then you're good.
Right, and what that represented, it wasn't just, we eat bacon and we're not defiled. It's not. It's a representation of something. They bring that pig to mark them by saying, this is what you're doing. You're not going to do the Sabbath any longer. You're not going to circumcise on the 8th day. You're going to blaspheme the Torah. And that's what this mark, this action represents.
Wow.
And they knew that going in. So the garrison would come in and they would go, here's how you're going to symbolize this decree as accepted in your family. You're going to make the blasphemy before us. Right? So that's where that changes the whole view on the mark of the beast, which is the one that, everyone they get out of their mind about because they think it's the when I say out of their mind, it's like in my day, it was the credit card system, and then there's the UPC, the barcode, and even the movies you would get a tattoo of the barcode, and then it got to the IFD chip, and now we're going into all these things because we keep going. And then the vaccine, of course, and everyone was afraid that they took it by mistake. I remember I got an email from a woman who was so upset. She goes, I didn't know, and I took the mark, and then I took the vaccination, and then I watched the YouTube thing, and now I took the mark of the beast, and now am I going to hell? And I had to talk her down the ledge, off the ledge, go, no, that's not what it is. Because we romanticize this because we don't know our history. Yeah. And we know exactly what the mark of the beast represents. It represents what went on in the history of Hanukkah.
Absolutely.
And if we kept Hanukkah going properly, not secular Hanukkah, which has happened to Christmas, we would understand. We would revisit the story because that's the reason why you like the candles, to revisit the story. The story starts all the way back to Alexander the Great.
Wow.
Not to, there's a siege in the temple and they kept the light on to help rally the troops. Okay, that's not what happened.
Yeah, it's so incomplete.
It's so incomplete. It's so blah. Right. Let's make up other stuff to make it more exciting. Let's give gifts and let's, eat everything oily, right? Because that's that's what you do on Hanukkah. You try to eat oil-rich foods.
Right.
Why? Because they're going, because it's all about the oil, right? And no, it's not all about the oil. It's all about the history, what led up to that oil, that now will last forever, which is the picture of the Millennial Kingdom into eternity.
Yeah.
So there's a lot more to it. And now we've done the same thing with Christmas, right? We don't really, we tried to, but the excitement isn't the story of Jesus.
Yeah.
Right? The excitement is the story of Santa Claus and the story of the gifts and all. And I'm not saying that as a so stop doing gifts as pagan. That's not what. And that's not what I mean at all. I mean, we've celebrated Christmas, and it's a great heritage in the church. But you can see how far it is away from the story, where we think there's 3 wise men.
Right.
There wasn't three wise men. And what makes them wise? Right? We don't have any kind of real backstory that they were actually the Babylonian astrologers, if you will, but they were the ones looking. They were Jews that were compromised with astrology, but were looking in the scriptures for the one that would be called Messiah. And there was a whole group of them because there was a 3-month journey, at least, to Bethlehem. Right, so we don't get that story. So we just talk about three wise men because there were three gifts. Well, it's much bigger, and Jesus wasn't a baby when the wise men showed up.
Little known fact.
Yeah, right. He was a toddler. He was always already a couple of years.
Everyone came to the home. The same night he was born or something.
They didn't go to the cave. They came to the home. Of the boy king, of the child, and we just the story gets all mixed up, and it loses everything that it's supposed to be, what it's supposed to tell us. And what does it tell us? It's pointing to the end times. That's what it's supposed to point us to. So Gentiles are just as guilty as Jews when it comes to this season.
We miss it.
We're really not looking deeper into it, and hopefully we can reclaim it in the years ahead of us.
Absolutely. There's no question that the story of both the Nativity as well as the way you just presented it, especially, the Hanukkah narrative, and seeing it in light of the scriptures and God's just general treatment with Israel, period. It's a storyline that the church needs to reclaim. We need to reclaim it. We need to take it away from Hollywood and its movies. More people know about Christmas because of what they watched on Hollywood movies, as opposed to what they read and studied in the scriptures. Most people's notions of Hanukkah is the same. It's just what you watch in the movies, and their mind goes to a dreidel or some other little game, as opposed to what this historical narrative is so important for teaching us and preparing us for, and giving us confidence about. And so it's so unfortunate. I think the church and the pulpits need to take these topics back and really be at the forefront of communicating it thoroughly, succinctly, and so clear like you just did. Gary, thank you so much for that. What a great conversation we're having today. I mean, that was super. You gave me homework. I want to go back and now read this even more carefully. There's so much there, and I'm hoping that everyone who's watching is feeling the same way. God, I can't believe we've almost gone through an entire hour.
Is that right?
But that flew. That literally flew by. But it was just such a great conversation and a much-needed conversation. I'm hoping if you're watching this and you're as mind-blown as I am, put the emoji, a mind-blown emoji on the comment section. It's really that good. That's how I'm feeling right now. Like, wow, that was just amazing. And I knew some things, and I thought I knew more than most, but I'm missing so much. And thank you for that. I really appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Brother, and this is why we have this conversation. The End Time Talks podcast exists, for the sole purpose of really being able to set a platform for an ongoing dialogue, discussion on the end times, because we find that the scriptures are replete, just saturated with this wisdom that ultimately is pointing towards a day that's on God's heart.
Yeah, man.
And his
really
Messiah.
It has to be
it
about
all culminates there.
Yeah, we have to really keep
if we don't read it with that narrative,
we're
we're missing the picture. And I'm so glad we have this. And we, in that same spirit, we have this conference that we do once a year, the Return Conference. Let's turn and talk about that a little bit. We have the Return Conference coming just about a week from now. I mean, just under a week.
We're couple days.
Yeah, it's 6 to 5 days away.
We start on Tuesday. We start.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, right after. Right.
Less than that.
We're like 4 days away.
I said 5 days. Yeah, it's less than that. So super exciting. The Return Conference, if you guys don't know, please pull up a chair and listen carefully. I mean, and if you haven't downloaded the app, you want to do that. But the Return Conference starts Tuesday, the 27th. And it's a 5-day conference where we have 5 different speakers who are coming to us literally from around the world.
Yes.
One of them will be on, in person here with us at the base. But from Tuesday through Saturday, we're going to have 5-day conference with 2 sessions per day. One at 2 p.m., which is an interview with the actual conference speaker, and then a 7 p.m. session, which is in the prayer room. And that is going to be engaging worship, followed by the message of the speaker for each of those nights. And you're invited to join us in person for both sessions. The 2 o'clock session, which will happen in the cafe lobby area of Eastern Gate, will be a live conversation with the speaker, from their remote location via the internet. And we're going to have just a really great opportunity to engage them and hear what's on their hearts, and they'll set the stage for the message of the evening. And then we come back at 7 p.m. in the prayer room, and it's live worship from different ministry teams that are in the area, and then we turn it over to the speaker, and we receive together the message that they prepared for us and have sent to us in advance. And we're just going to receive that response of the Lord each night. And that's going to be for the 5 nights with a couple of changes on Friday and Saturday, a couple of new things. On Friday, we have Joel Richardson. Right?
Live. He'll be
live.
in person.
He will be
with
live
us.
and in person with us.
Yeah.
And so his interview at 2 p.m. will be in person in the room and at 7 p.m. at night. But more importantly,
where will it be?
It'll actually all start at 12 o'clock. We actually start the party early on Friday at 12. Joel Richardson will be doing a book signing for his latest book, From Zion to Sinai.
No, Sinai to Zion.
Sorry.
Yeah.
From Sinai to Zion.
It's the triumphant return of Jesus.
It's an amazing story.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a great book from beginning to end. You don't want to miss it. I already got through it. It's awesome. And he's going to be here to sign that book. I wonder if he signs digital copies. How do you do that?
Oh, I don't know.
I got a digital copy.
You're going to have to buy
I'm going to have to buy the book.
Real one, yeah.
But he's going to be with us at 12 o'clock at the Jesus Gift and Bookstore in Island, New Jersey. And the address will
Jesus
be...
Book and Gift Store.
Is it
Your book is first.
Book first. Sorry,
Yeah, Jesus Book and Gift Store, yes.
And so... should I say the acronym now? I'll say it.
No.
It would help me to remember it. I'm going to say it. It's
acronym is JBags. It's
Don't
not
call
a really
it JBags, but it does help you to get the order.
It's not really a good picture, JBags,
really but the Jesus Book and Gift Store in Island, New Jersey, will be hosting him at 12 p.m. For a book signing, and then that leads us right into 2 p.m. Where he will be interviewed live right there. We'll have a studio audience there.
Yeah, we're going to set up chairs and everything in the bookstore.
So join us there. Yeah, you have some time to do some shopping right there in the actual bookstore. Get your book signed by Joel.
Meet the new manager, Mario Fernandez, is the manager
awesome.
there.
He's great. He's a great addition to that team there. And you'll get to meet the man himself, and we're going to interview him and ask him questions. And if you're there, you could join us in the conversation that we'll have with him in person. It's very casual, very laid back, but it'll be very personable as well. And then we'll be back here at night on Friday at 7 p.m. for more worship and listening to the message that he has for us.
So that's all Friday.
That's all on Friday.
And then Saturday.
Now Saturday's the grand finale.
2 o'clock again.
2 p.m. we'll have the
cafe.
Benji Nunez interview with, we'll have the interview at 2 p.m. with Benji Nunez.
Right.
In the cafe. You're welcome to join us and watch that entire interview
but
live
8
with
o'clock is the new time.
Yeah, so it won't be 7, but 8 p.m. on Saturday.
Right.
Saturday alone at 8 p.m. And we're going to kick it off with worship and praise and celebration before the Lord. We're going to turn it over to the speaker, and he's going to release the word, the final word for the conference for all of us to receive, respond to the Lord. And then somewhere, I'm thinking it'll probably be around 10 o'clock.
10 o'clock or so.
We're going to head outside after we responded to the Lord. We're going to head outside to a heated outdoor tent.
Yeah.
It's a massive tent. Nice and heated with lights and everything. And there will be tables full of coffee and desserts and pastry. We're going to have a full hour of just fellowship and loving on each other and just kind of sharing testimonies and just getting to know each other better. We want to get to meet you as well.
Don't be alone.
Please
on New Year's
join
Eve.
us. Yeah, it's going to be a great party after the entire service that we just had the final day of the conference. And then for the last half hour at around 11:30ish, we are going to go outside we're going to come out of the tent and we're going to go outside and we're going to worship God under the stars.
We have the live worship team.
It's going to be a live worship team on stage outside, and we're just going to worship the Lord unto the midnight hour.
And then we're doing the countdown.
We'll do the countdown at midnight, and at that moment that the clock strikes 12, and we hit that 0 number, there's going to be an explosive fireworks display right here on site, which you don't want to miss. It's going to be an amazing time. We'll greet each other and love on each other at that time and just have a great celebration in the new year, reigning in the new year with praise and celebration and lots of love.
And then we keep going.
We're there till 2 in the morning.
2 in the morning at least.
We're just going to have a great time all night long. And there's photography that happens and just a lot of fun and things that happen. So you don't want to miss it. You don't want to stay home on New Year's Eve. Come and join us. Actually, the weather looks good.
Looks good. Might be like 50 degrees.
Absolutely. So don't stay home in front of a TV watching Times Square or all these secular things. Come and join us at the International House of Prayer Eastern Gate. Join us for the 5 days of the conference. Join us for the grand finale. Join us for the celebration of the end and the countdown and the fireworks and all of the fellowship that comes around that. It's going to be an amazing time. You don't want to miss it. Now, there are 2 ways to register for this. Register for in person. If you're going to be here and you're going to be a part of that celebration, we do want a head count so we know how much to prepare. So please do register if you're going to especially be there that last day and you're going to come and catch the conference in person. Now, if you're going to catch any of the conference virtually, if there's some sessions you can't make it to, That's perfectly fine. There is a one-time registration fee for those of you who want to watch the conference online. It's a $20 registration fee. Mm-hmm. So right there where you're registering for the IHOP app, it'll take you to a link where you can register for the online version. And it gives you access to everything.
And we're getting registrations online from all over.
All over.
We got as far as Australia.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, registrations from Australia.
So all over the country. I've seen it from Alabama, I've seen it from Texas, and there's just coming in every day. My email is kind of trickling every day with more and more registrants. You can register your whole family all at once.
But if you're local, I mean, register if you're going to catch any of it online, like you said, for the online stuff.
That's right.
But come down to the house of prayer and be a part of the fellowship.
That's the best way to do this.
Yeah,
actually.
for sure.
You want to be in person if you can. So if you're within driving distance, join us. And I call driving distance a good hour. It's worth it.
Yeah, it's worth it.
So come on down and join us, and just engage with the Lord, engage with your brothers and sisters in this region as we press into His presence.
Let's end the new year right. Yeah. Focus on the Lord all week, and then we get that worship into the new year and the fellowship among the saints. It's a small picture of the age to come.
That's it. I like that.
Yeah. So be a part of it.
I always say, Gary, that first minute of the new year sets a tone for the rest of the year.
Yeah,
you want to make sure you're praising God.
Yeah, for sure.
You're praising God. So, guys, that's our show for today. We're so glad that you joined us.
Last show of the year.
Last show of the year.
Yeah, it was a good year.
It's been a good run. So the next time we see you, we'll be at the actual return conference. We'll be doing this with our speakers each day. So join us, and we're so glad you tuned in.
And then we'll pick it up in 23.
Yeah, we're going to be unpacking.
We're going to unpack it. Yeah. So stay with us on Thursday nights at 6:00.
Stay with us, guys. Take care. We'll see you guys in the new year.
Bye-bye.